Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new I didn't sign up for this seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the cards in our deck get randomized based on the cards that we didn't include in our starting deck. That can make deck building in this event confusing. Don't worry, I've got you covered. So let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Monsters Carapace deck, and the way that this event works is basically you pick a faction and rarity, in this case epic monsters, and within those two categories, whatever you include in your deck, you are actually blocking from ever showing up in games, and then anything else that you did not block of the same faction and rarity will have a chance of showing up in your deck, and you can get repeats in the actual event. So basically, we've blocked all the things that are not that valuable, or at least relatively difficult to set up in a randomized deck of primarily the monsters variety, although it's actually impossible to have an entirely epic monsters deck, so threw in a few epic neutrals to fill out the low end of the deck. And in terms of what that leaves us with, it is a bunch of monsters epic cards, several of which, like Goliath, Hugo, and Lord Riptide, are relatively straightforward point slams, which you could even bring back with Witch's Sabbath. But we also have some early round engines with things like Sir Scratch-a-Lot, Nithrall, the Catachan, and Eater. And in this case, if you spawn a bunch of drones, then that sets up one of our more ambitious combos with Glusty, who can then give us a humongous point slam, especially if you have She-Troll on the board when you do that. Just be careful because we don't have a lot of consumption, so otherwise She-Troll is pretty tough to set up. We also have Girdle of Giant Strength for some potential carryover. Just bear in mind that we don't have that many Ogroids, and you do need one to get the carryover effect. Morvad, which can also be an amazing late game play, along with Ozrel to consume one of those big cards from your graveyard, and you might even be able to play enough of the Crones to build up their value considerably. So there's a look at the deck, and overall it has a nice combination of early round engines with late round point slams. Just be careful because there are several cards that can be difficult to set up, so depending on how many of them randomly show up in your hand, that could make things a little bit tricky. But as long as we're prepared for that, we have a strong deck. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms, and we'll go first. And we do have a few neutrals, that's why we have Artifact Compression showing up here. It's maybe not a terrible thing to have in hand. Don't have much set up for She-Troll or the Frightener at the moment. We do have decent stuff for Penitence, at least on the Thrive side. Might dump Protoflutter as well, though. Okay, Catachan is at least an engine, even if we don't have that much bleed. I think we might dump one of you. Rune, right? That's also obviously a neutral, but okay, it's double Catachan. That's not a terrible thing. In fact, that is very likely how we'll start here. And apparently we got a random neutral Roach. Can't complain about that. Onager. Now that is potentially a very good card. Now we could also go for a second Catachan and flood this row as well. Or we could start going with things like Scratch-a-Lot and Penitence. Eater is also potentially very good, but let's see if we have a Glusty in our deck here. We do not, unfortunately, because that is an amazing synergy. But apparently not one we'll have here, so I guess might still wait for Eater and use that as more of a early engine in round 2 or round 3, and we'll focus on the Catachans here. Okay, Ballista does have Order ability. I mean, I wonder, there's a chance that they're just a bronze-only deck that spams these two types of cards to set up super Onager damage, in which case, might not be a terrible thing to break out the Frightener, and we won't need to set it up, because our opponent will set it up for us. So, maybe we'll drop that. And let's just boost up the Catachan. Okay, I mean, it is a lot of siege engines. That much is for sure. And now that we have a relatively big unit on the board, we could break out the Beast. Okay, Mastercrafted Spear. What are they going to destroy? One card. It's the Beast. Tricky thing is, at this point, we would start to need to play some things I was trying to save for later rounds. Scratch-a-Lot plus Penitence and Eater. I mean, Eater has enough base power that we could potentially use it here, although it is really good, so I would really like to save it. We could do a very not dramatic Ozrel consumption here, or we could just lock and reset, and the Onager is definitely the most dangerous card here. It isn't boosted, so I still feel not great about locking that. I almost feel like locking the Siege Tower is a little bit better. Reset the boost, and it is one card that was indirectly setting up the Onager. Okay, and at this point, there isn't a lot left for us to do. We could drop a Sheet Roll as a way to just click on this Catachan ability. I'm not really sure that's worth doing. It's 7 extra points, which is not great when they have a couple of engines on the board. So I think we might even just pass here, and there's certainly a chance they could catch us on their next turn. We'll see. What I don't like is that they're going more in the boosting direction. I did prefer them going the damage direction when it was more likely that they were going to end up flipping our Frightener for us. So yeah, that's not how we wanted that to go. But we accepted that it was a possibility. Okay, so they did play one more card than us, which means they might drive past, in which case we'll have a throwaway card here. We draw into Fisher King, which could be a throwaway, just to give us whatever we prefer at the top of our deck, which might be Scoia'tael number 2, or another Eater, or another Catachan. So that's a decent option. I do like Toad Prince against Northern Realms. There should be some pretty solid targets for that. Sheet Roll has been questionable. Witch's Sabbath, I don't love. And the Frightener is a little risky, as we saw in round 1. They will play. That's pretty greedy. But I think we'll use Fisher King, because at least at the moment it is enough. And we'll use this to put... I think we'll go... I'm leaning toward Eater as the card we use to draw into, especially because if they do continue to push further, we might end up playing this Eater. I'll tell you what, Toad Prince there was pretty tempting. That's Ballista. So yeah, Toad Prince consumes you. I mean, you don't have 4 base power, so we're losing a little bit of value, but obviously we get rid of the order ability, which is kind of nice. I'm also a little bit tempted to drop Penitent and just see if they'll take the bait and trigger the Death Wish for us. I kind of doubt that, and tempo-wise, it's definitely not as good. I think we'll just go Toad Prince here. Keep it simple. Using it on the previous turn to shut down the Iron Falcon infantry, though, might have been better still. Obviously too late for that at this point, though. Alright. This is, I don't know what they think they're doing here. They are trying to bleed against monsters, and we should have a lot more tempo than they have. So this is kind of just being needlessly disrespectful. We could drop Goliath. Obviously, it's a ton of tempo, and in some ways you might think that's something that we would want to save for round 3. But remember, we have Osrel, and that gives us a very good target for Osrel to go after, because otherwise we're looking at 5 base power, and they haven't exactly had high base power cards for us to take either. So this might be enough to dissuade them from playing further, while still setting us up for round 3. Meridian Balm. Hell no, I'm wishing that we had Frightener on the board already. Now, one luxury for having played Goliath when we did is that we are still out-tempoing them, which means we could sneak in a Penitent, and I think we probably will. I mean, it is somewhat easy for them to go after it with the Kidwani Revenant. But if they do, then obviously they're going to trigger the Death Wish. And in doing so, I think they get out either Weavis or Runewright. Not amazing, but it's at least 6 base power. So I think we do it. And then the other reason is that this is a Thrive card, so if we are forced to play it, we don't want to be forced into doing it on our very last turn, otherwise it's very bad. Yeah, it's going to be to give them some other form of damage, maybe, to set up the Revenants on the Penitents, which, because it has the Death Wish, is, again, highly questionable. It's Reavers. Talk about, disrespectful at this point. Oh my goodness. Well then, I think we'll go Scratch a lot, because it is good setup for Penitent, and if we are forced into playing this, we want to do it fairly early. First Night. It's the one card they've played thus far that we might be interested in going after with Osrel. Obviously, it's not in their graveyard yet, though. But I think now we're probably looking at Eater, because this is an engine that, under normal circumstances, we would like to play early, but they're kind of forcing our hand here, of course. Let's do this. Then this. And this is what I mean. I don't know why Bronze Northern Realms thought they could out-tempo monsters. They basically just tried to bully us until they realized that they couldn't pick on us. Alright, so we knew we were getting Eater. We also get Runeright, which is basically just 6 points and nothing else. Witch's Sabbath is interesting. So it does give us Goliath. It does give us Eater, which is very good. And I think a Catachan as well, which is not bad. For them, it gives Curse Knight, which is decent points on the body, but no ability. And then probably some other engines. So if we do this late on, that might still work. I think we get rid of you, though. Another Catachan's not bad. I think we try dumping you. Okay, whoa, my goodness. Well, at that point, we might end up getting the other Catachans as well, and at that point, it might warrant playing you fairly early. Wow, okay, yeah, Osrael is going to be kind of tricky. Are we going to have enough units remaining to actually have Osrael have a target? I don't know, but basically everything is coming out of both people's graveyards. I think it is still worth going Witch's Sabbath first, actually, because that is going to give us one of our Eaters, so might as well do that. And hold on, doesn't matter what row we put them in. They're getting that. They're getting probably the Onager and one of the 3 power cards. Okay, so we just do this. So we get you, who's an engine. Oh, right, we didn't, we only get monsters cards, no neutrals. So that actually helps us get Catachan. So you're an engine, you're also an engine. This row is going to get very crowded with tokens, though. Oh, and actually that Revenant could potentially become a bit of an issue, because Eater is going to create some 1-power cards. I mean, we could just delay using all the charges if we really wanted to. Okay, it's another Revenant. All the more reason to hold off a little bit on clicking that button. So now it could be Eater, it could be Catachan. Those are engines. But Witch's Sabbath gives us Catachan, I think the Beast, and Scratch-a-Lot, which are all engines. So I think we do that. Go melee row, so we don't run out of board space here. Well, that might still happen. Okay, that does... yeah, Onager with the Revenants is going to lead to a lot of damage. And this is a situation in which we actually could have gotten the Frightener Dormant on the board, and it probably would have flipped eventually. Okay, Siege supports. Will give Zeal to something. It could be a Revenant in the future, potentially. Okay, so now we could either Catachan or we could Eater, both of which are engines. You're 2 points per turn. You're 3 points every 4 turns, which is a little less efficient, and at this point, we're not going to be able to get you off cooldown anyway, so I think it is definitely Eater who comes next. Oh, I forgot you have Doomed. Well, that was silly of me. Okay, we're just going to ignore the part where I clicked on that button. Centurion Royal Guard. Okay. Now they're getting hit twice, because we have 2 Eaters on the board. Now we do this. And which row is going to be more crowded? Do this. Do this. They have a 3 base power card. We still have some neutrals. Yeah, we have a 6-point Fisher King, so that'll be the Osrael target on our last turn. Alright, they do have a leader ability. They want to use that, but no, they'll go Golden Froth instead. And now they go leader ability, which is, at this point, only going to give them a 2-point body. And a little damage from the Onager will still be in the lead by 1, so even after accidentally sacrificing Scratch-a-Lot, we won't even need to play our last card, use any of these orders, or leader ability charges, because we've already won. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have a few Crones. We have High Tempo Goliath, which is good if we have Osrael. We have Glusty, which is great if we have Eater, which we do. We just need to get it out from our deck. So I think we have some decent options here. They just aren't in hand. Marching Orders, we do have some neutrals, and Marching Orders would give us, right now, Morphid. Yeah, we have some really good cards hanging out in our deck, so I think we can be pretty aggressive with our mulligans here. I don't really think this is going to help us much. Morphid, I mean, eventually, will become pretty good. Not a huge fan of Frightener here. There's another Morphid. Okay. Maybe we dump you. Eater. Okay, there that is. So I would like to play Eater and Glusty in the same round. Eater is definitely an early round card. So does that mean this is the Glusty round? It might be, and then we can use things like Morphid in round 3, because we have 2 of those, so definitely don't want to get forced to play those round 1, so I think that means we need to get aggressive with the other stuff. So yeah, let's go Eater. Then add Turncoat. We could immediately consume with Toad Prince. It's not necessarily the absolute best target for it, especially after having taken damage from Eater, but I guess we can still do it. I think I'm going to try to save those charges, if possible. This is Nilfgaard, so they may very well be about to lock you. Yeah, well, it's going to be more turncoats, where that one came from. And we might even create some extra little drones and then play Pugo and increase the chances of this hitting a 1-point drone, and that way we don't take the full 3 damage, we only take 1. Let's actually go Brewis here, though. And that's mostly just so that on our next turn we can play bigger Weavis. Is it 100% turncoats? Now I'm intrigued. Now I'm actually very intrigued. Alright, let's go Weavis, and let's just boost you up a little bit. And that does seem to be the card they're focusing on. It looks like it's 100% turncoats. It is going to give them a fair bit of damage. Fortunately, though, between the boost we just gave from Weavis and also the tactical advantage, should be able to keep Eater alive for a fairly long time. And I think Goliath, assuming they don't have some other form of... And I think, assuming they don't have some form of toll removal, like a secret gold they're holding onto, or some Fangs of the Empire, then Goliath should be pretty safe, theoretically. So that's a card we don't really want them to be hitting, or at least removing. Okay, it's more turncoats. They are consistent. Gotta give them that. So now we could go Pugo and it could hit somebody. We could start breaking out some of the drones and in the process increase the chance that Pugo hits just a 1-point drone, although that does make it a little less valuable to use Glusty. We could just go for Glusty here, though. So maybe we'll boost you up, because it seems like that is the card they really want to go after. And yeah, sure, we'll go Glusty now. We'll do it. Could have been a little bit bigger if we were a little bit more patient, but I think at this point we have a big enough lead that especially if they've only turncoats... Oh. There's no way for them to catch us? I mean, if they get rid of... Okay, well, they do have other stuff. It's a Mage Infiltrator. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, if they do get rid of Goliath, then they will summon a card out from their deck, but even then, I still don't think that's going to be enough for them. So I think we pass here. And we'll see just what they go for. It is Goliath now that they're targeting. They will still take a little bit of damage from Eater even after we passed. It's more turncoats, which means those will come off cooldown, or more quickly, but they still have to go one more turn before that works. That gives them another turncoat out from their deck, but it's just 4 base power. Another engine, but they're running out of time here, because at this point they're going to permanently go cards down. Alright, well, there's a good Mage Infiltrator. And at that point, it is enough for them to catch us, but... Goodness, the damage has been done here, and, well, maybe they're just doing a bit of a thought experiment here. I mean, I can relate, but usually I still try to go for, a win if possible, whereas this time they're just maximizing the damage in round 1. But they did not need to take that last turn, so that was weird. Okay, and because they took so many turns even after we passed to win round 1, Morphin is already at 11 base power, and we've only had 1 round. So that's going to be incredible. I think we probably dump Sheetroll. Don't think that's going to be all that necessary here. Just another Goliath. Arachas Behemoth, not fantastic. Eater, well, I mean, with Arachas Behemoth, that could have been good. I think we'll use Wererat as our throwaway here, and we'll just go big tempo. Or otherwise, we could use Goliath if we're really concerned about Goliath getting destroyed by all those Thanad turncoats. But, we'll just use you. Okay, I think Sheetroll's still not the right choice for us here. If we had combined that with Glusty in round 1, that could have been really good, but not really anymore. Which is Sabbath. I mean, at this point, we'd get Goliath, Eater, and I think either Brewis or Weavis or Glusty. out, which is good tempo-wise, but it will give them likely a bunch of turncoats, which is good engine-wise for them. So if we were to do that, we'd want to do that late on in the round. It's not terrible if it's our last play, though. Surrender, I mean, it could be good. Arachas Behemoth, not that great for us, though. Eater is definitely an engine, so I think that is definitely what we go for on turn 1 here. And if we can get the Might active early on, then that sets up Lord Riptide. So for that reason, might even go leader ability here on Eater, and then something big enough in the range row to get Might, and it'd probably have to be Goliath, because otherwise it's Pugo, and Pugo's going to hit Eater, and then you're below 10 power, and then we don't have Might, unless we click on this, and Pugo happens to hit the drone, but that's a gamble. So I think we do this. It does give them a pretty solid target to go after with their turncoats, but so be it. Okay, it's surprise, surprise. More turncoats. And, well, I mean, actually, tell you what. I mean, putting the Carapace on our units immediately before they could even get the spying from the turncoat could have been a very interesting way to completely wall them off, at least for a few turns. Obviously, eventually we'd run out of leader ability charges.
Obviously, it's too late for that on the 2 units that we already have on the board.
But I guess we could go Goliath, melee row. Then we definitely have Might in both rows, especially if we go here and here. Obviously, the damage has already been done. These two already have the spying status, but they won't be able to put it on Goliath here. Okay, Mage Infiltrator will deal some damage. We knew they had it. But we're still on Might. We gave ourselves a little bit of a margin. And you did not get the death blow. And at this point, 4 armor on Lord Riptide. We'd like to see one more turn to completely remove a turncoat. So this might even be Pugo. If it is, then that means we have the chance of hitting this Goliath, which is unfortunate because that would break Might unless we play you in the melee row. Okay, we're still on Might, and we really only need one more turn of it. Right, more Mage Infiltrators. I mean, the annoying thing now is that they're flooding this melee row, which we kind of wanted to eventually flood with drones to set up a Arachas Behemoth. And now that is not really going to be all that feasible, but we'll go Lord Riptide here, just get rid of one of these turncoats. Minimize their damage. And of course, we already had pretty huge card advantage. And they will get rid of Eater here, okay? So fair enough, we didn't get the chance to even use those charges, but not sure we would have had space anyway, because we could play Behemoth here, and in fact, that's probably going to be what we want to do. So we have more time for the Morvids, and Witch's Sabbath can be our last turn play, but I doubt that will be necessary. So they'll go Infiltrator, and they'll forfeit. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we do have a few neutrals in this deck, and that means we got Doo-Doo, as well as Elephant Onion Soup. And She-Troll's a little bit hard to set up, although there is some potential with Glusty. I feel like that's a little risky to have 2 of them. I mean, Elephant Onion Soup is one way to guarantee it, and I suppose Nithrall potentially gives us a way to set that up. Count Caldwell? Not necessarily sure we're going to make that work. Okay, but Eater plus Glusty is fantastic. So let's do this. And maybe we start with Nithrall to get our damage set up early. Now, Eater's also a card that similarly we'd like to set up early too. Alright, backup plan is going to hit you. Ooh, Dopethon Archer is going to remove you. That's no good. Alright, now maybe we play our other Nithrall, and this time make it a little different because we'll use our tactical advantage. Okay, Circle of Life. So it looks like this might be a bronze deck. And we could play She-Troll and destroy this with Nithrall and immediately get her boosted up, although I am growing increasingly tempted to combine double She-Troll with Glusty and Eater, because that could be pretty huge. So maybe we go Penitent here, and we'll break out Scratch-A-Lot. I mean, technically, I guess we could go Scratch-A-Lot now. Okay, backup plan is going to hit Scratch-A-Lot now. He does not have Immune, because he technically wasn't our starting deck. Darn it! I was gonna say, but if they don't get the damage, then we could replay Scoia'tael and completely ignore the damage that they were going to deal. I think we do still go Penitent on this turn, though. We'll hit you, I guess. And then I'd kind of like to get Doo-Doo on the board for our next turn. So I am considering using Elf and Onion Soup just to get Penitent to trigger the Death Wish, and in doing so, get something else onto the board. But I have no idea what that's going to be, and we definitely do not have a good target for Doo-Doo. And at this point, if we are trying to save these guys, then we don't really want to use them right now. So, you know what? I mean, we might even be about to just do this. Okay, and I officially have no idea what that is. More traps. Okay, but here's the tricky part for them. Alright, sure, they do a little bit of damage, is they are going to have to play at least one more turn for this to do anything, and might even need to manually flip it, in which case it's not going to do nearly as much. So it's a little bit tempting to pass here, otherwise we go Elf and Onion Soup. Oh, these are not the same color card, though, which is very unfortunate. So yeah, you know, I think we pass early and have a very low scoring round one. You would think they could probably catch us here. Might require that they use their leader ability, though. With Querixis. Okay, well, that's a pretty big commitment. Now, it's not going to be a very good trap. Oh, no! Look at that! Suddenly, the turns have tabled, and they forfeit. So there's a look at a Monsters Gold deck for the new I Didn't Sign Up for This seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And just a heads up that we might go more in the 1 or 2 card deck direction for the rest of the week. And take a look at our Didn't Sign Up for This seasonal event, and our 1 card to rule them all event, which is based on this event, playlists. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.